I, a 42-year-old female, had my twins, Emma, 23, and Tony, 22, at the age of 20 with my then boyfriend Davis, who was 40 at the time. We got married, took on part-time jobs, and continued studying in short careers. With the help of our friends and parents, we managed to raise them. It was a period filled with a lot of stress and hard work, but we were happy. Over time, we were even able to buy our own house. We considered having more children, but I refused due to a near-death experience during childbirth. I truly believed Davis was the love of my life, but about 7 years ago, I discovered he had been cheating on me for a year. Devastated, I immediately chose to divorce him. He begged for forgiveness, but I refused and insisted on the divorce. When he realized he could have lost the children because of his actions, he manipulated the situation, making it appear to our kids that I was the one who cheated. He even paid someone to spread fake stories, and as a result, my kids cut contact with me. They were furious and never allowed me to explain. I tried for months, but they refused to listen. The final straw was when my son Tony told me that I was dead to them and demanded that we leave each other alone. I don't want to play the victim, but I must share how deeply this affected me. I fell into depression and alcoholism. I survived but almost lost my license, and I didn't care at all. As dramatic as it sounds, I remember being on top of a roof when my mom called me. I didn't respond, but she left a voicemail asking why I was avoiding her and expressing how much she missed me. I then realized how selfish I had been, focusing only on my pain and not considering how my mom, who raised me alone as a single mother, gave me everything she had and loved me more than anyone else. I was furious with my children for not believing me and for what they did to me. But after crying on the floor of my living room for hours, I took a train to my hometown and confessed everything to my mother. I cried in her arms, just like when I was a child, not realizing how much I needed it. I took a break from work for a couple of months, went into therapy and rehab, and did my best to help around the house. Eventually, I met my now husband, Stefan, 41. I got a job in my field, and we moved in together 3 years ago. We hadn't planned on having children, as he had none of his own, but as he is a doctor, we decided to adopt our daughter, Monica, a tween female who lost her parents in an accident. We realized we could give her a good life together. I love her with all my heart, just as much as I love my biological children. She's sweet, kind, smart, funny, and curious. Her presence has healed things I couldn't heal with therapy. Not that I'm using her to replace my Tony and Emma, but I think you can get it. Long story short, Tony and Emma contacted me a couple of weeks ago. After insisting, I agreed to a meeting. They drove to my town, and I admit I wanted to cry when I saw them, but I kept my cool. I just sat there. I tried to snap at them, but I thought there was no point. They asked how I was doing, but I ignored their questions and asked what they wanted. They explained how their father remarried a horrible woman who treated them really badly, how they found him intoxicated one night. He admitted that he lied about my affair and that he was the one who cheated on me. They apologized and begged for another chance, and even though it was what I wanted for years, I just didn't respond. I didn't even look at them. I stayed in silence, staring at the table for seconds. I finally told them that it was no longer my problem since, according to them, I was dead to them. And maybe they should have thought things through before turning their backs on their mother without even letting her tell their side of the story. They kept crying and apologizing, but I stopped them. I said I didn't have time for this stuff. I had to pick up my daughter. I left the money on the table. They were shocked to hear about my daughter, but I simply went to pick Monica up. They kept trying to contact me, but I ignored them. They showed up at my house and talked to my husband, and they were surprised by how nice Stefan was to them. I thought about the situation, talked with my closest friends, mom, and husband, and concluded that I needed to make things right. I invited them to my house when I was alone with my husband, and I apologized for snapping at them. I told them I was sorry for how they were suffering, but I still wouldn't be able to forgive them. You see, I still feel a grudge and resentment towards them that I can't control, and I feel like it will not go away. They kept trying to change my mind, but I stood my ground. I gave them 2 envelopes full of cash for the years I missed and told them I loved them with all of my heart and that that wasn't going to change. I wanted them both out of my life. They were hurt and tried to argue, but I clarified that they showed me how little I meant to them and that no matter how much I loved them, I didn't want them in my life after what I went through because of them. My husband politely asked them to leave me alone. I admit I cried in my husband's arms, but it was something I needed to do. Tony and Emma still can't accept my decision. They asked every person close to me to convince me to reconsider, even my mom, whom they had ignored for years, did snap at them. Of course, they're her grandkids, and she loves them, but I'm her daughter, and that's another matter. She wasn't nice to them. She called them entitled and said that after all they put me through, the least they could do would be to leave me alone and face the consequences of their actions. Anyway, some of my friends found out about this and told me that I'm overreacting. They said, they're just kids who made a stupid mistake. I know that, but that stupid mistake almost drove me straight to my death. I don't think we can have a healthy relationship if I hold a grudge against them. I wish I didn't, but I can't control it. Again, am I the idiot for refusing to forgive my kids? Not the idiot, but for now, do what you must do for your own peace. Your life was practically destroyed, and your family threw you away. You are obviously traumatized. People who have suffered so much sometimes need peace, regardless of who played what part in their torment. They were lied to and used, of course. And maybe one day, you can talk to them again. But take things at your own pace. For now, ask yourself this. Now that your children have lost both their parental figures and been outright disowned, like you were, what are you going to do if one of them goes down the path you went through? The affair happened 7 years ago, and the kids were like 14. Her kids threw her away because they were manipulated by their dad. They weren't just lied to. They were manipulated into hating their mom. She gets to feel hurt, but they're also victims here. These literal children were going through a traumatic life event. It's not the child's responsibility to meet the parent's needs. That's why parental alienation is a real thing and weaponized to get back at the other parent. Now, onto the main topic. She can choose to not have contact with them. It's her choice and right, but it still makes her an idiot for holding 2 teens accountable for her actions. The kids don't deserve as much sympathy here as you say. While it started at 14, the mistreatment continued for many years. They betrayed her. They can only honor her current wishes and stay away. They also don't like their new stepmom. They say they learned Dad lied about who had the affair. While it's understandable, they want to reach out to their other parent to apologize. Why so pushy? OP gave them her answers. The kids are 23 and likely still living at Dad's home. Are they looking for a new place to live because they don't like their stepmom? I'm guessing that's why they're reaching out to the mother they abandoned for 7 years and not taking no for an answer. My brother and sister-in-law have 2 daughters, younger tween Bria, that is his, and teen Leah, that's hers. The problem is, my sister-in-law, every time someone compliments Bria, we must also compliment Leah. Otherwise, she'll get mad. For example, suppose I tell Bria that she's very talented in something. In that case, my sister-in-law will interrupt me and say, "But isn't Leah also so very talented?" It's annoying. I can't say a single word to my niece unless I say it to Leah too. A few days ago, we were at their home, and the girls were getting ready to go to a party. Bria was looking absolutely gorgeous, so I told her, "Oh, Manju Bria, you look gorgeous." My sister-in-law interrupted me again and said, "But isn't Leah very gorgeous?" I finally snapped and said, "No, she's not." She looked at me shocked and said, "What the heck is wrong with you to say that?" I told her I didn't want to say that, but I answered truthfully since she wanted to know. If she thinks her daughter is gorgeous, then she should tell her, but she can't expect people to compliment her. Now she thinks I'm an idiot. Am I? You are the idiot, assuming that Leah heard what you'd said. She's a teen girl that could seriously hurt her self-esteem. It's a crappy way to get back at your sister-in-law, by making Leah hurt. It's also true that yes, you shouldn't have to compliment Leah every time you compliment Bria. But she's a teenager, and teens that age are sensitive and always looking for validity in who they are and how they look. In the end, though, I'd expect an adult to handle that situation better without hurting a teen's fragile self-esteem. You said it yourself. The problem is my sister-in-law, so why did you make it Leah's problem and force her to be the casualty in your problem with the sister-in-law? Is it just me, or does OP give the impression she only ever compliments Bria? She only refers to Bria as her niece, while Leah is just sister-in-law's daughter. Given her obliviousness and cruelty, I think maybe sister-in-law has had enough, prompting her to be nicer to her other daughter for a good reason. Op, you were cruel. You should have said, of course, both girls are beautiful, but it's not a competition, and I don't have to compliment everyone each time. It's ridiculous. Agree. It sounds like Leah has been around since she was 2 years old. If OP still can't see her as family, then something is majorly wrong. If my family were treating my stepdaughter like that, I'd be livid with them. I've been there more than her actual father for most of her life, and to me, she is my daughter. I know that a blood bond still changes the dynamic, but there is infinite room for love in a kid's heart, and it shouldn't be the adults limiting it. I feel bad for the other niece because she's his niece, not their brother's stepdaughter. I, Jenna, a 32-year-old female, have a son, Jason, a teen. He's a good boy, and I've raised him by myself to be a good man, or so I thought. He had a beautiful girlfriend, Sophia, a teen, who I love very much, like she was my own child. She came around often. And she was very kind to my son and me. She loved my son very much, and he loved her too. He always told me how pretty she was and how much he loved her, and I thought it was very sweet. I had a high school sweetheart too, who is Jason's dad, but we unfortunately got a divorce. Jason and Sophia's relationship reminded me a lot of my ex-husband and me. I heard my son talking to a girl from his room on the phone as I walked up to tell him that dinner was ready. I asked him, "Is that Sophia? Can I say hi?" He said it wasn't Sophia. It was his girlfriend. I was shocked by these words. I would never imagine my son cheating on a girl who loved him very much, and he loved her too. I said, "Get off the phone and come down. Dinner's ready." As we sat down for dinner, I chatted with him. I confronted him about the girl he was talking to. I said, "Who was that girl?" "You have a girlfriend. You can't cheat." He just simply replied, "I can do whatever I want. They're just girls. I don't care about their feelings." I was speechless. I couldn't believe my son said that. I raised him to be a good boy, not an inconsiderate boy. I told him that he needed to tell that other girl the truth, that he has a girlfriend. But he said no and that he could keep both of them. I knew that it was wrong, so I decided to tell his girlfriend. I texted her the following day, telling her the truth. She was devastated by the news that her boyfriend of 2 years was cheating on her with some girl he met about a week ago. I felt terrible for her and apologized on my son's behalf. She thanked me for telling her and said she was breaking up with him. I respected her decision and said it was the right thing to do. My son ran downstairs, telling me that Sophia broke up with him and that she knew he was cheating. I told him that I told her, and he had a fit at me. I said it was unfair to her, and it was the right choice for her to break up with him. He was very upset, but I guess he deserves it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, but as your son gets older, you should be more hands-off with how he handles relationships. I think you made the right call here for sure. Though, as a parent, I'd worry more about your son's moral compass. Make sure he learned his lesson. You may want to pay more attention to what your son is listening to and looking at online. It sounds like he may be going down the Andrew Tate type of rabbit hole. There is a growing issue with young boys getting caught up in incel activities. He said he didn't care about any of their feelings because, to him, girls are things, not people. Not good. Agreed. You may want to try getting him to talk about where he's learning these things rather than controlling what he looks at online is a battle you cannot win. Please don't think that you can, but you can talk to your son about appropriate relationship behavior. Remind him that you are part of 50% of the human race and that some really bad people out there put out some terrible advice that only hurts them in the end. This is a 22-year-old female, and my husband's, a 22-year-old male, second pregnancy. For the first pregnancy, I chose to have my grandmother in the delivery room, as my mother is not in the picture. This time around, my husband insists his mother is in the delivery room. To him, it's non-negotiable. Some context. My mother-in-law has hated me from day one, as she feels I've taken her son from her. We've both gotten into screaming matches with each other because of her entitlement and me feeling scared, worried, and like I had a say from the very beginning, which wasn't always the case. She's always been very judgmental, and I've never felt accepted by her. The latest incident happened right after she came to my house high as a kite for Thanksgiving. I told her she needed to get help, as I don't condone that in my home or around my firstborn. This led to her constantly asking if she could have my firstborn to babysit for a while. Until Christmas, I lost my cool. My husband wasn't putting his foot down, as he knew, with the type of woman she was, she would deny anything and everything. I stepped in and said a couple of choice words and called her name multiple times. Needless to say, I completely lost my cool with her, and I was very mean as she rebutted back the same way. Back to my issue, I've done everything in my power to fix the relationship on my side, and the ball is currently in her court. Still, my mother-in-law is refusing to do anything about it. Now my husband expects and demands her to be in the delivery room when my mother-in-law and I have a terrible relationship. I feel trapped in a corner because if I say yes, I will have a horrible labor, as she's not a good person for me in a vulnerable state. And if I say no, my husband will think I'm selfish and a spoiled brat because I didn't get my way. I've gotten my way plenty of times in our relationship, and he never really asked me for much. But at the same time, I'm the one physically pushing out a baby. So, am I the idiot for not wanting her there? What would you do? Edit. My husband has done everything in his power to ensure I'm taken care of and have everything I need, and he's very supportive of me. He really doesn't ask for much. He only asks for common respect, which I struggled with but have been able to give him. I'm still working on that, but needless to say, he's the best husband ever and doesn't let anyone walk all over me or talk bad about me. Not the idiot. Your husband has no saying. Who's in the delivery room with you? Labor and delivery is hard enough without going through it with someone you don't want there. Just make sure you tell the nurses that she's absolutely not allowed there, and they won't let her anywhere near you. The bigger problem is having another baby with a man who doesn't have your back. You guys really need to work on that before she ruins your marriage. OMG, tell him his mother-in-law can be in the delivery room if he drops his pants and lays spread eagle beside you. What a loser. Does your husband even like you? Why would he demand you have his mommy in the delivery room while you're completely vulnerable? You say he doesn't let people walk all over you, but that's precisely what he is doing here. I'm sorry this is happening. But if the mother-in-law can't be civil, the very least she can't be there. Plus, she has a drug problem. What a mess. Labor and delivery nurses are well skilled in removing unruly families, so if it becomes an issue, they have no problem kicking her right out. It shouldn't come to that, though. Your husband is being unreasonable here, and he's the issue you must solve.